Hello and welcome to the video. This is a revisit of what's quite an old plane at this point. This is actually the version 1 of the ZOHD Dart XL. I loved the original Dart. I was heartbroken when they stopped making it. I think 635mm wingspan, gorgeous little thing. But this was its bigger brother, and this was the version 1 that came out. I reviewed it back in November 2018, and then it came out with a version 2 which had some improvements. That was, I think, 2020, something like that. I think I looked at it in summertime back then. But this is the version 1 that I've had for a very long time. And I've just updated it with iNav. So we have a Matex flight controller in here, iNav 7.1, I think it is at the moment. It has a rangefinder in the bottom. It has DJI FPV gear in the nose. And I've actually built this out to be a chase plane of all things. So when I do my modern reviews of planes where I'm putting walk snail in, if I want to follow along and get some of that aerial footage that you seem to like so much, I need a plane that's going to be built out with the DJI stuff so that while my friend is flying that plane, I can fly this and we can get those follow-on shots. But this is actually not the first incarnation for this. Originally it was built out with a basic receiver, then I put in some FPV, then it went in with a vector system. Do you remember that? I did a whole kind of vector series where a vector went in here. Then I pulled the vector out probably last summer and put in a flight controller, set it up, did it with iNav 6 back then, had a couple of quick test flights, and then the weather changed and I didn't get around to it. So I've put iNav 7.1 on the flight controller I've got in here. And thought, you know what, while I've got it all built out, I think it'd be interesting to look at this with a modern eye view, because this actually has a lot of stuff in it that as modern pilots we've come to expect from an FPV wing or plane, and they were on here 6 years ago. So this shows you how far ahead of its time this was when it came out back in 2018, that a lot of the things that are on here are standard things that we expect to see. So for example, the wings are removable, held in place with thumb screws. There is a shed load of space for a flight controller. There's room for a GPS. There is even the vertical tail stabilizer doohickeys actually come off with a little twist thing. There is shed loads of room for a battery. You don't have to have super heavy batteries in here because of the long schnoz. You can either have a big battery and have it further back, or you can have a smaller battery. I'm flying this currently on 2200 4Ss. Again, time code's down below if you just want to skip to the flight review. At the front, I'm flying it with the DJI stuff because it is a chase plane for my walk snail stuff. And I've even got a little run cam thumb pro shoved in the nose. I did a little conversion with that, but it's got massive amounts of airflow. They thought about that so that the DJI or the walk snail system, whatever, in the nose is actually kept nice and cool. So I thought, let's go and actually talk about how this is set up. These are still around. You can still get these even in kit form, and they are still worth getting hold of if you want kind of a big bruiser cruiser that can do lots of stuff, because they are old. I think it's easy for you to look at an old model like this and go, yeah, you know, it's kind of, there are better things around. But actually, this still has a lot of the stuff that I look for in modern planes. So in terms of the specification, again, this is the Dart XL. This is the version 1, not the Extreme version 2 that came out a couple of years later, made of biodegradable EPP. Wingspan is 1 meter or 39.37 inches. The length of it is 596mm or 23.46 inches. Flying speed, they reckon, is about 25 to 100 kilometers an hour. I think you have to keep it pretty lightweight in order to get that low speed. Wing area is 19.8 dm squared. The wing load is 60.6 dm squared max. The recommended maximum flying weight is 1200 grams. I love the fact that they've included that detail. Recommended battery is something like a 4S 3300 milliamp hour. With that kind of weight, you're not going to get that lower speed, however. Maximum flying time, they reckon, is 40 minutes with that recommended battery. Now, the motor and prop on the latest ones, it comes with a 2216 1300 kV and a 30 amp ESC, has 9-gram metal gear digital servos in the wing. Yep, they were that ahead of the game back when they brought this out. And the prop is a 9x4.5. However, I'm flying mine with a 9x5, which is what the V1 I think came with. Now, the flying weight for this is just over 1 kilogram, and I'm using a 4S 2200 battery for the flying in mine. I find it a little bit ponderous if you get towards that 1.2 kilogram maximum all up weight. In terms of flying and setup tips, I'm running a 9x5 prop on this on the supplied 2216 1300 kV ZOHD motor. The battery that I've got in here is that 2200, so it's about 1100 grams, whereas I have also tried it with the 4S 5000 mAh pack, which will give me over twice the flying time, but it's starting to get really heavy with that. You really have to give it a very good throw. Don't need lots of extra weight to get the centre of gravity spot on, thanks to that long nose. And in terms of control surface movement, I'd go with 15mm for the elevator and 15mm for the aileron too. That will give you good crisp roll response and decent pitch response as well. Be careful of it if you're flying it on a windy day. Those huge wings act like a kite and it'll pull it out your hand. So make sure that you're flying in calmer weather, or that you are very clear on which way the wind is flying and it isn't too gusty. I have had this pulled out my hand by the wind on windier days. And even with everything all trimmed up, you will find that there is a little bit of yaw wag in this, more than some of its modern counterparts. That's probably the only downside I can find with it. The other comment I'll make with this is the altitude hold is very sensitive to throttle. If I drop the throttle, the nose drops too. So you have to be aware of that and trim it for the cruise throttle that you intend to use. So with all that said, what about the scores? How's it actually flying? Well, having a nice high 1850, 1900 throttle setting for the auto launch, this thing, surprise, surprise, just gets pulled out my hands thanks to iNav and just gently rises into the sky. So let's go through the scores. Let's do slow speed first. I can fly down to just above 20 miles an hour, but underneath 24, I'm starting to feel that I'm starting to get towards the point where it's going to be unhappy, even with my slightly lighter battery. So if you're going to have a really heavy battery, you're not going to get down to those slower speeds. It does maintain its momentum very, very well when you cut the throttle, and that weight in it really helps with the wind. Not sure what those wing fences vortex generators are actually doing. Maybe they help, but I've never flown it without, so I couldn't really tell you. In terms of high speed, this is not a speed machine unless you start messing around with the motor and prop. This only gets half a star. It will do over 60 miles an hour but it's going to pull a reasonable amount of current to do that. I don't think that's a great idea. There is an issue, as we're going to come on, with efficiency at the moment, where some of the wind that's going into the prop at the back is being disrupted heavily by the back of the model, and also that humped piece that goes over the rear flight controller and ESC area. So talking about efficiency, it gets about 3.5 stars. It can fly for more than about 20 minutes, and there's a lot more capacity available in here if you've used a bigger battery. I'm getting about 16 minutes from my 2200 mAh 4S. It's pulling about 7 amps at cruise throttle, and that's giving me about 44 miles an hour. And it's pulling about 130 milliamps every minute, so that gives you an idea of how long any particular battery would last you. So it isn't super efficient, and I think that is because of that disrupted airflow into the back. I think also because I'm running an older folding prop on this, that probably isn't helping me either. In terms of noise, yeah, you can hear this. It gets a 3. You can absolutely hear it in the park that you're in. It isn't super quiet. This is a big prop spinning slowly in quite a bit of dirty air as it comes off the back of the airframe. A different prop may help, and maybe actually extending the motor an inch would actually help increase the efficiency, but also reduce the noise as well. It isn't one of those things where everyone is going to stop eating their picnic sandwiches and look around and find where that horrible noise is coming from. It's not mini DRAC standard, but it's definitely a little louder than you would probably like if you want to fly and not attract attention. Toughness. Well, this is pretty tough. As I said, I've had this one since late 2018. This is its 4th incarnation. I've put it together with hot glue, Yoo-hoo pour. It's been crashed, smashed, put together, and it's all still original. So I've got to give it 4.5 stars. The only reason that I haven't given it 5 stars is that there is a risk of a prop strike. If you're using a fixed prop, that 9-inch prop hangs quite a way down, and if you're unlucky enough that it is hanging below the model when you come into land, if you hit something hard, it's just going to snap the prop. And that's the reason why I put a folding prop on mine. Aerobatics, well, if you go for the 15mm for both elevator and aileron, then you will get pretty nice control for both the roll and the elevator. I think it could actually handle a little bit more travel on the elevator. The control surfaces aren't very far back from the center of lift and center of gravity, so it doesn't have that same effect. So you could potentially push that up even to 18 millimeters for your elevator, and it will probably handle that without any problem. Room inside, whacking 5 stars. This is a big model with loads of space for your FPV equipment, action cameras, things like your batteries, GPS, flight controllers. I've even managed to pop something like a rangefinder in this for the iNav landing demo videos as well. So they don't have to worry about running out of room. And the last one is travel and breakdown. It gets 4.5 stars for this. It breaks down into smaller parts with some basic tools. For the V1 that I have here, if you have the version 2, then you don't need any tools at all. It will break down into smaller pieces. However, the reason it doesn't get full 5-star is even when it's broken down to smaller pieces, it doesn't make it into backpack size. So in summary, when this came out in 2018, this was a model that was way ahead of its time. It still stacks up and is contemporary with lots of the stuff that's coming out today. However, this can be bought for super low money. All right, there's a little bit of yaw wag with it that I don't get with some of the other flying wings that I have here, or definitely not as pronounced. But if you can live with that, this is a great little plane for hooting around with, and it is incredibly versatile and incredibly tough. The fact that this is one that I've had since those original times, and I've flown it and crashed it and smashed it, and it's been rebuilt and reset up multiple times, is testament to how tough this thing is. With a little bit of work, this could be an amazing build. You could either put a hotter motor and prop on it with a bigger ESC and turn it into a little bit of a ripper, or you could put a more efficient prop and motor on it, maybe extend it out a little bit out the back, put a lithium-ion battery in the front and have it as a cruiser. All those things are possible with this. So if you see one of these and you've discounted it because you think it's too old school, would be my advice. This is one of those things that you're not going to see in videos, but you'll see footage from the camera in the nose, as this is going to be my chase plane now for all the reviews. But it's nice to have this ready to fly and for it still giving service after 6 years. Thank you for watching my video. Check out the playlist, and adding Pedantry 360 to your search terms will help you find my content. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. You can support the time I spend here answering questions and helping others by using the links in the video description.